Welcome to I'd Rather Be at the Movies. I'm Justine Browning.
I'm Matt Donato.
And with us today, Bobby Rivers,
Glad to be here.
our guest co-host.
Thank you.
Today we'll be discussing a few movies of note.
All the weekend releases, I think. And I mean, we'll start with The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, obviously, because it's the biggest franchise that's going on right now. Then we will jump to, we'll jump around, but we'll do The Mule. We'll do Reach Me.
Okay.
We'll do A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yes.
If we get time, we'll do Harvard Bosses too, but I think we will get to that because even though it's coming out next week, it's one of those pre-Thanksgiving releases. So if we have time, why not throw
I
our
want
thoughts
to
out
talk
there?
about that one. We need
Then
to
I guess
make
we're
the
definitely
time.
going to talk about it.
Well, yeah, let's start with Mockingjay Part 1, which didn't open that big.
Surprisingly.
It opened less than the first two films, which were huge releases. So that's saying a lot.
Did you two read the books before you saw any of them?
I didn't,
I'm
but
illiterate. I don't read.
I obviously know that the third book has been split into two, and that's what a lot of people have been complaining about.
I never read the books. I didn't see the previous movies, but this one kind of felt like they tried to stretch it out. It was almost like it was a really good 1 hour TV episode that they kind of stretched into a 2 hour movie.
Well,
But, you know, good acting. I really dig Jennifer Lawrence. And she's like Rambo. She could take down a flying object with a bow and arrow.
One single
One
shot.
single shot.
I think that echoes a lot of what I heard walking out of the screening as well. Everyone agreed that Lawrence absolutely kills it. Everyone agrees that the characters are great. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Julianne Moore.
But breaking it into those two movies was completely unnecessary.
All about the money.
Exactly.
That's how a lot of fans are responding.
That's how it felt. It was all about the money. They didn't need to, but yeah, you love seeing the acting. Watching Philip Seymour Hoffman just broke my heart because he left us way too soon. I really liked seeing Julianne Moore dressed as Gandalf.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
I didn't even think of that. Now I do.
And good acting, but it was like, kidoki.
He will actually, Philip Seymour Hoffman will appear in Mockingjay Part 2 because he did finish his scenes. I think there were a few scenes that they had to get creative about.
CGI, where they put his face on somebody else's body, that kind of thing.
I
think it's few. It's a few scenes, but there's still that. And I mean, what sticks out most with Hoffman, when he has these scenes, he's able to switch the tone on a dime. And with a single smile, he can, set a scene, completely.
Well, I absolutely thought the very last shot, without giving anything away, I thought that was pretty powerful, and it made me want to see the next one.
Right, and if only that energy had carried through the entire film, because that was a very potent, powerful scene.
There were a lot of sequences that I thought were really well done, really powerful. But, I think the interesting thing is that Peter Craig and Danny Strong were brought on board to co-write this, to co-write the screenplay. And Peter Craig wrote The Town, Ben Affleck's film, and Danny Strong is an Emmy-winning writer. He wrote The Butler last year. It's an amazing film, but he also did Recount for HBO and Game Change. And so a lot of his background is mostly in political films.
And there's such a strong political tone through this.
This is the first Hunger Games without an actual games. I mean, we've had two films where they're playing around and fighting for their lives, and this is the film that they retreat underground, and this is all about propaganda. This is all about building an uprising.
Propaganda is an interesting role in this,
and that's really well done. There's a great SWAT team kind of scene where Francis Lauren keys it up, and you've got people going down on ropes, and it's really well done in those senses. But again, it's over 2 hours, and not much happens. Really nothing happens. It's a giant setup for Part 2, but man, I don't know.
What did you think of the directing? Because I remember that he did Constantine a few years ago, which everyone remembers as being a giant disaster.
I don't hate Constantine, though. It was one of the first comic book movies that, I say first as in only a few years ago, kind of, but still, one of the early comic book movies that kind of went balls out crazy and it didn't really try to rein itself in. I didn't hate the directing. I thought Francis Lauren really brings a lot to it. And again, those politically thrilling scenes, you really set them up perfectly.
I think the direction was okay. It was just there wasn't much of a story.
Yeah.
It seemed like, well, okay, it's if we burn, you burn.
Over and
boom.
over.
Yeah, over.
It was a little bit heavy-handed because that's the problem with this movie. It knows that it has an audience of a lot of young adults, right? So stuff like Finnick's character, who in the books works as a gigolo, that stuff is taken out, that darker stuff. And yet, there is this overall somber kind of tone,
They
right?
kind of
Right.
leave that in there too a little bit. They mention, Finnick goes on this rant about how he's doled out to the highest bidder at times because he's a winner and stuff like that. I mean, but again, it's in passing.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
the thing with part one is that it's set up as an inevitability. There's
Right.
nothing surprising there.
Right.
The entire movie, you know exactly where it's going, and it goes there. And it's kind of a fun ride at times along the way, but I don't know. It really just bothered me, the part one and part two.
I think this is getting, from what I noticed, the worst. Not bad reviews, but overall, I think it's the worst
It's
reviews
divided.
compared
Right.
to the first two. which is
Everyone's sitting
interesting.
around like a 3 out of 5, going like, all right, like it's another Hunger Games movie, but
Yeah.
I'm sure the next one will be better.
It'll make
A
some
lot.
money.
A
It's
lot
not going to
happened.
tank at the box
No,
office.
it's absolutely
no.
not.
Yeah.
It did well, but it was just less than
Hutcherson,
expensive.
Hemsworth, Laura, you're not tanking.
You're not taking with them.
And I do love
Yeah.
at the press conference, I was tweeting out some pictures that I was taking, and I'm just mentioning this because it's hilarious to me. Every picture I sent out, all my friends were like, is Donald Sutherland awake? Like, he just didn't even look like he wanted to be there. Like, they're asking Jennifer Lawrence about, like, all these, like, pop culture questions. And you got Sutherland in the background going, like, I don't care. Why am I here? Like, what am I doing?
She's got 3 nominations, 1 Oscar.
Yeah.
I've never been nominated.
Exactly.
I'm Donald Sutherland.
And then he goes on one rant, and he just talks about how he's gonna die soon, how we're all screwed,
like the Woody
and
Allen
how our
stuff.
generation is just bombing everything. And we're like,
Thank you,
Yeah,
Donald
thank you, Donald.
Sutherland.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic.
Film history, the first Homer Simpson, Donald Sutherland.
Boom.
Day of the Locust.
Yep.
That was his character.
Wow. I never knew that. Okay, you
Go
you
back, but-
stumped me.
All right, so let's move to our next movie. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
I loved this movie.
This was a
You know-
huge surprise.
You made me go see this movie, and I'm sitting there,
Yeah.
and I thought, no pun intended, I thought, if this movie sucks. And then
Because it's a
I'm
vampire
sitting
movie.
there going, a vampire is riding a skateboard, wearing sneakers, and she listens to Lionel Richie. I am so loving this movie. I loved it, man.
That scene that you just described, where she's riding the skateboard,
Yeah.
coming at you at the camera,
Really?
With the hijab or the cape,
that's
as a cape.
literally what kind of like turned me. When I saw that scene,
man.
I was like, beautiful.
And then
I-
the brilliance of, people, let's go back to the 1930s where you had Bela Lugosi in that black cape as Dracula, and the reworking of the black cape on her,
Yeah.
brilliant.
And the thing is,
Brilliant.
they didn't have to set it up as a monster. That was a religious thing. Like that's
Yeah.
All right. So it's a Middle Eastern vampire film. Obviously, let's describe it really quickly.
Done
And
in black and white.
In black and
Directed
white.
by Anna Lily Amarpour,
who again, absolutely
grew up in California, is of Iranian descent, and we should mention it's set
It was
in
filmed in
Bad
California.
City.
It's set in Bad City.
In
but filmed in
Iran, it's
California.
set in Iran, but it
Yeah.
was filmed in California,
That's why-
Bakersfield,
that's why I-
California, in an economically depressed part of California.
Honestly, I just did interrupt, but I was watching the movie going, wow, this is set in Iran, but it looks so much like parts of where I grew up in South Central LA.
There you go.
Now we know why.
Exactly, because of course the strict censorship laws in Iran wouldn't
Right.
allow for a
There's-
film like
I mean,
this.
there's nudity, there's violence, stuff like that. You couldn't get away with filming
But
that. Actually,
they
in
have a
Iran.
huge bootlegging culture. They get everything. That's we were at a Q&A where the director was there, and she said they will find a way. If it's banned,
They
they,
are
want to see
into
it
our
more.
hip hop culture, which you can tell,
Yeah.
is music wise, style wise, everything. And then you have this female
Yes.
vampire.
Yes.
And there's this whole feminist tone to it.
Sheila Vaughn is her name. Remember that name because
She was
she is
absolutely
going to
phenomenal.
be a big deal.
And just the brilliance of it's almost like a meet cute between
Oh
the
my God!
vampire
How
and the
ironic
guy.
too. Yes, she
As
meets
Dracula.
So we should mention the fact that yes, this is a dark film, and
Yes.
yes, there are
Yes.
some pretty freakishly scary moments, but
She
it's
gets really
an
vicious.
adorable
Really?
romance at the end of the day. Like
It looks a lot to me like I saw this movie Spring at Fantastic Fest, and again, it was a creature feature, but it's also this really tender love story.
Yeah.
And that was this movie as well.
And there was this meet cute, as you say. He's at a costume party. He's dressed as
Dracula.
Dracula,
X'd out.
and she,
And he's
yeah,
absolutely
yes, and
tripping his
she-
balls
Rip it off.
out.
And we just think, oh my goodness, this is comical. It's the comic relief moment. Something bad's going to happen.
Right.
You kind of feel that way.
And it doesn't
then
really.
it doesn't. Because they fall in
I
love.
think for me, the cinematography, Lyle Vincent was the DP on this, and he worked so damn well. This could have been a gallery show. They could have taken snapshots.
Was beautiful, and as also the bravery and boldness of shooting it in black and white.
Yeah.
And this would have been it would have had a totally different tone and color. Black and white was the perfect way to go with this film.
It reminded me of an old Italian film, or even like a French film like
Right,
Breathless.
or some
Just
of the
the way she
Kazan
was
films,
dressed, yes.
like America.
The way that she was sort of like an Audrey Hepburn, but almost like 90s style character. It was really interesting.
Like her character says, I've done bad things, and she had.
And I do love the female empowerment tone. Now, the director did say she doesn't want it to be categorized as a feminist film because that's not what she set out to do.
And I didn't read that, but that's what I was drawing as a male sitting there going, some of these victims are abusive males.
I was going to say.
The director at the end, people were asking questions. Like I said, it was a Q&A, and they were like, why did you choose to do this? Why did you choose, black and white? Why did you edit it this way? And she was like, it just happened. Like, she used, like, sex metaphors the whole time.
I was going to say, she was really heavy on the sex
metaphors. She
metaphors.
was like, it's like sex. You just kind of know when it's good and when it's bad
when
and
it works,
whatever.
it works.
And that kind of disappointed me. Now, she's probably just saying that maybe,
Trying to
but
get
it
a rise.
kind of disappointed me. I was like, no.
This will ruin anything. To get the first 10 minutes of the movie, like the pimp thug with sex written on his neck.
They go all out.
It was so
man.
But again, everyone
funny.
else has their own, like, theme song in a way. Like, the
Right.
Thug has that,
Right.
European house music, and then you have, like, the angsty indie
Yeah,
rock
yeah.
for the vampire.
But if you're looking for straight up horror and deaths, there really isn't that much in this film.
And it's still intense.
But
Yeah.
it's still,
It's still-
I think the just the way when there's a scene where she talks to this young boy and really freaks him out. I thought that
Oh
scene
my
was
God, that
harrowing
was
because
great.
you're creating what could happen in
Yeah.
your head. It reminded me a little bit of Let the Right One In, the Swedish
Yes,
version of,
exactly.
and
The
even Let Me
original
In.
one.
Even I honestly was one of the few that liked both equally,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it
Equal,
had
that's interesting.
and I thought it had similar tones to both, where you're just like waiting.
The first one was my favorite.
Yeah, the
Really?
original.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
I
yeah.
It
did know
takes
the
its
original.
time, and I think that's what this does too. It really lets you feel the environment, feel the tone, and then
And
you're just waiting.
When you told me what it was about, but you didn't tell me, you didn't ruin anything. I said, okay, I know it's an Iranian vampire movie. I think so. Black and white is done in modern times. And I went in thinking, is this going to be like that second to last goofy season of True Blood, where I'm going, they're out in the sun wearing Old Navy cargo pants. What the fuck? Well,
No, this stays very straight to it. And I mean, I'm the horror guy on our website. I write all about horror. So this year I've seen Only Lovers Left Alive. I've seen a movie at Fantastic Fest called Norway, which was a Greek vampire movie about like a disco club scene and Nazis, and it's great. It's beautiful.
These I will say.
And this movie as well, I put those three together, and I like kind of mentioned on Twitter or something like that, or like in a review, and I was like, this is like the new vampire genre. We're not doing conventional vampires anymore, and it's effing beautiful. Vampires
is a
are good
beautiful
again.
movie.
I actually love vampires.
God, wouldn't it be something to see? I could not a well, they used to have revival theaters
Yeah.
here in New York more than they do now, but to have a good print of the original Dracula from the 1930s
Yeah.
and then follow it with this one.
That would be really interesting.
That would be a good double feature.
Because it did remind me of Nosferatu in a way, for sure. A lot of scenes.
The
so
black and white really goes
I
back
really
to it.
felt, this was probably one of my favorite. I would put Nightcrawler and this and
Nightcrawler,
Whiplash.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
Nightcrawler,
he's kind
man.
of a vampire in that movie in
more
a way.
people should be more people
He's
should
a
be seeing.
social vampire. I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
say.
So I loved all
I think
three.
you
Those
think
are my
about
three
I
favorites.
mean, watching a movie like this, and then you think, okay, the Cannes Film Festival. Why don't they have women on the jury? Why don't they have women directors up there?
It's a huge, huge issue.
Anyway,
obviously.
Anna Lily's next movie she described as, correct me if I'm wrong, but she
Yes.
kind of said Mad Max meets like some crazy romance kind of deal.
Yes, she did.
And I am
say that.
so excited
I'm on board
for
for
that.
whatever she does.
I
I'm
am
sure
too.
that it will be fascinating.
I am
And
too.
she literally said even like the scene towards the end where a train goes by, it's an incredible moment, happened by accident.
No,
A train happened to come by, and they were like,
And the
oh
actors
my God.
were ready.
And
They
you
just
know,
went-
the crew was kind of panicking,
Yeah.
like, oh my God, there's a train. And she was like, no, we're getting a free train shot. And
She's
they
like,
went
this is
with
beautiful. What are you freaking out about? This
Off
is
the
fantastic.
That was a wonderful scene. I love that
it.
scene.
It was really one of my favorite scenes. So.
Okay, she is someone to keep your eye on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Definitely an upcoming talent.
So
But let's
excited.
move on to The Mule, because I want to talk about The Mule. You guys don't want to, but I do.
Okay.
Directed by Angus Sampson, starring Angus Sampson as... Wait for it. A
Just
drug
please.
mule.
Yes, yes.
That's where the mule comes
Yes.
in. So the whole story is that Hugo Weaving is a law enforcement officer, catches Angus Sampson's character trying to smuggle drugs in, but he can't incarcerate him until the
Drugs
let's
come
say the
out.
evidence
The evidence.
presents
The drugs
itself.
come out.
So we'll tell him because it's the opening shot of the movie. The movie opens with a cavity search.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
And
And then it
Thanks for recommending this movie, Matt.
Goes-
Really
Listen,
appreciate it.
I saw that
And
in
it's
South
be-
by Southwest. Loved it.
set in 1983 and based on a true story.
This is all
So-
true.
All true.
So the
And, you
whole
know,
Because
just
life
getting
is
to it really
wacky.
quickly. So the whole thing is Angus Sampson in this hotel room, squaring off against Hugo Weaving, who's trying to make him evacuate his bag
Yes.
as quickly as possible. But it goes on for so many days.
Oh.
And clenches it in. So that's the movie.
That's
This is what we're
over.
talking about here.
you know, most movies you sit through a movie and you want, you know, a box of popcorn and a soda. This one you wanted a cup of coffee and a box of prunes. I swear to
didn't.
God, that's how you felt sitting through the mule. I went, where is this movie going to take me? You know, I went, I'm getting physically uncomfortable watching this man.
That was the thing. Like, I watch all these horror movies. I see people decapitated, disemboweled, all
But
this stuff.
this was the
I almost
absolute
threw up in
horror.
the theater. I almost threw up in the theater.
Man,
That there is a few scenes, and I will say this right now: if you have a squeamish stomach, you're gonna feel upset.
yeah, you will.
But the whole thing is, it had to be in the fact that they went there and they have a few scenes where Angus accidentally might pass something and has to get it back in. We're gonna say,
Yeah.
oh my god, I was physically ill, and he commits himself 100% to it.
You
I'm
know
gonna
what?
make you feel better though. I got to interview him after the movie,
Yeah.
and I said, so those scenes, what were you putting inside you? White chocolate as the bags and honey as the glaze.
Really?
He said he enjoyed it. He said he enjoyed
No.
it. So now you feel better, right?
I just said that like it was a holiday tip. Now I know what to give the relatives for Christmas.
Fake cocaine bags made of white chocolate. That's the new holiday gift.
Wow.
But so again,
Okay, so
I love this movie.
If
I
I
want
had
your
read
guys'
that
reaction.
was the description of it, I would not. I just what's it called, the mule, and then into I went, holy. But he did commit to that character.
Oh my God.
And Hugo Weaving, for people who are watching it, that name,
Hugo.
you know, it sounds like after about 10 Cosmopolitans, that's what I do. Hugo Weaving, but he was
Bobby Ray. That's
one of
classic.
the drag queens in the Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the
Yes,
Desert. Yeah.
yes, and the
Agent
Matrix
Smith.
films.
Yeah, I was gonna
Agent
say. I mean,
Smith.
everyone knows him as
Everyone,
Agent Smith.
Agents. That's right. He was Agent Smith.
The Lord of the
where you're
Rings.
gonna go
Lord
Lord of the Rings.
But I love the poster for the mule. Is
I was gonna
literally
mention the
just
poster.
Angus Sampson bent over in front of these people during the
I
cavity
don't know if you
search.
saw the poster.
I
but
saw, but I
it's
didn't get it.
encompassing.
I thought
You didn't get it.
I didn't get
He
it
was
because
presenting
of
himself
I thought,
just for no
He's
reason.
like this, and I go, is he like looking through a keyhole or something? And then it's like, it opens with a bum. I mean, you know, cheeks.
Yes, an actual bum, not a homeless man, a literal bum bum.
You know, and I'm thinking of like, wow, you're an actress. You get your first, you know, small part in a movie, and your first line is, "Would you hold your scrotum, please?"
And again, people are gonna know Angus from Insidious.
I was gonna say this is the
He's
theme from
Insidious
Insidious,
with
which
Lee
is
Whannell.
important,
They're both in
important
there.
thing to know. Yeah.
And I loved them as a team. They're so well together. And again, they come together for the mule. And again, it commits to the period.
Okay,
That's what I like the most.
No,
of it.
I acted as though I hated it, but you know, it was, you know, I'm trying to watch.
You're
this
gonna
thing
say you enjoyed it. I'm waiting for this. You're gonna admit it.
because the last act was a surprise. I went, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a really great interpretation because
But you just have to, you know
it
what?
took you a
Dude,
minute, I know, to get on board with it. And
Yeah,
that was the
because-
same thing for me. You have to get used to that
Oh,
world.
I agree.
You
I
have to
completely agree.
accept the story. And,
You know, just you know, hit the restroom before you see the movie. Just be very comfortable.
well, I started reading
I'm
the
feeling
reviews.
uneasy right now.
Did you read the reviews of the film?
Yes.
Because it's getting
Highly
rave
positive.
reviews across the
That was.
board.
I put my review out at South by, and it was weird because it was like mine was like one of two at the time. So there was me who was really positive, and there was someone who hated it. So I was
Ah.
kind of curious, like, how is this going to be received? Because it's very gross, it's very graphic, but it's also a really compelling story, and it's a drug story that hasn't been done before.
It's a really different drug story that way.
I mean,
and
the
now it's
fact
getting
that it's-
rave reviews.
the
That's
fact that
thing.
it's true, that alone,
Man,
I think, is so fascinating, but also just proves, like, the stuff that a screenwriter can come up with is never going to top
Not
Okay,
even
all
come
right.
up
the
with
way
true
that
story.
things happen.
I don't want to be gross.
Go. No, no, okay. This is a safe zone. We're okay.
Okay, because You know, like you had to like, no, you gotta watch this movie. I don't want to sit there. So when I was like in the 4th grade, my parents made me go to summer camp. I did not want to go to the summer camp. No, I did not
So
want to
you
go.
shoved
No.
cocaine up your ass. It
was up in the San Bernardino Mountains.
Oh
I wanted
my
to
God,
stay
I don't
home
know
in
where
South
this is
Central
going.
LA,
Let it go.
look at cartoons and musicals. That's all I wanted to do. So it's like, don't you want to go to camp? No, I want to stay here and look at Judy Garland movies. Then you're going to camp. So then
We're gonna fix that.
We're fix that. So I got there and held myself for the first 3 days. So, and that's what I remember.
So you
when
can relate.
I can relate.
You
I'm
can
watching
relate
the
to
movie
it.
and I shouldn't like this, but I'm starting to relate to this character.
There you
and then I was starting to relate. Then the story was good, and then I got really hungry for lamb chops. But that comes later in this.
Yeah, that never happened with me. I can tell you
This
that.
is the second time I've heard you mention summer camp in this kind of way this week. Because during the Hunger Games screening, when they were getting shot in the woods and climbing up trees and throwing bombs, he goes, "That's why I hated summer
That's
camp."
right.
What
Murder
kind
and
of-
climbing up trees.
What kind of
What kind of
camp
this-
were you forced to go to, Bobby?
All right, let's leave let's leave it in the past. Let's leave that there. But I really liked Angus in this role
Yes.
again because he plays a character who is doing this for a good reason. He just wants some money, like stuff like that. He wants to help his family.
Yes.
Best of intentions, and again, then he's thrust into this world of.
He does it for the best intentions, and he is a guy who is really he's taken advantage of and used by other people.
Yes.
There's an incredible documentary called Drug Kings of New York that profiles people coming across the border, usually from South America, who were in a very similar situation.
Really?
And it reminded me of that, and it also kind of reminded me that this is a film that people should see if they're thinking of getting involved in that world. It is a strong
it
anti-drug
was
message.
fascinating.
And
Yeah.
you won't be eating milk chocolate if you're doing it in
Oh,
real
you
life.
won't.
That's the thing.
We should come up with an idea for a reality show because reality shows are still making big money. Celebrity Drug Mule.
like which celebrity?
Kim Kardashian's on my team. That's pick number
Oh
one.
my god!
She got
Things
how
you-
many kilos up
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's number one draft pick right there.
Okay, you came up with that really fast, like you were thinking about this already.
I set him up.
I mean,
he knocks him out of the park.
I can't come up with anything because I don't think like
Karch
this.
Karai,
People-
Spike right there. Karch Karai reference. That's not going to happen all the time. All right, let's move on. We like the mule. Didn't really talk about the mule that much, but I believe we all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Led to some
It
nice
grows
debate.
on you.
Yeah.
Good
Next-
acting, based on a true story, which will stun you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a good
And
point.
you have Lee Whannell directing Insidious Chapter 3 coming
Uh-huh.
up, so look out for him. Let's briefly touch upon another release this week.
Uh-huh.
Justine, I know you didn't see it.
I couldn't.
Bobby, you did see Reach Me.
I did. I saw Reach Me.
I
What an
wanted to
utter
see it,
piece of garbage.
but
Am
it
I
wasn't,
right?
it wasn't
You know what?
playing like anywhere, and I think I know why.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
reason.
What is this movie?
It's a real wobbly script. You know what it? It was all,
Wobbly's being nice to it.
right. Yeah, it is because it was unfocused. Like a friend of mine said, a tone deaf story is
Yes.
like, where are you going there? But in it, I still kind of liked Sly Stallone's performance.
I hated Stallone.
Really?
Here, let's set this up real
Okay,
quick.
Yeah,
right,
play- I
right.
don't know anything
Reach
about it.
Me is about. It's one of those interconnected stories with a bunch of different people.
At the
different
heart of it,
characters.
like a J.D. Salinger type author.
Chicken soup for the soul, kind of in a
Right.
way. They all find this
Reclusive.
book, and in the book, it's all self-help stuff, and you have going on like I don't know, like everyone finds their own meaning in it.
Right.
Everyone finds their own path, and
It's
on
very
that path.
Oprah Show-esque.
Yeah,
That's what the
absolutely,
book.
very Oprah Show-esque.
And the book was written by this guy who, like I mentioned, J.D. Salinger. He's become a recluse, so no one. What does he look like? Where is he? Why won't he grant interviews?
So this is everyone's separate story. You meet Thomas Jane, who's a cop who can't stop killing people.
Yes.
You meet
An alcoholic priest
Everyone's
who's
separate
hearing.
story, like a New York I love
Right.
you kind of thing.
It was the type of movie that Altman did better.
yes, Altman's better. Very Tarantino-esque, where it's trying to be entertaining and punchy, and it wears all its influences right on
Yeah,
its sleeve,
yeah.
but it doesn't execute any of them.
And you didn't like
Okay.
I
Stallone.
hated Stallone. He plays
Why
like
did
a
you like him?
Because, you know, I've gotten tired of him as the action hero. You know, it's like, okay, we know you got to give us those kind of bumper sticker lines like, hey.
Yeah, but he
What,
does
you know,
that even
he-
worse here. He plays
what?
like a Drudge Report kind of like
Right, he's
website
playing a
runner.
political
What?
ad-
I
Yeah, he
could
plays like-
never see him
Yeah.
as that.
I thought that because he was doing something, he wasn't the action hero. You know, I thought he was doing something different, playing a different dramatic character, the aggressive political reporter. And I thought, you know, he's kind of doing something that I thought his best performance after Rocky was in Copland, this movie that he made in the '90s, and I
agree
thought,
with you.
you know, he's trying to do something gritty like that instead of I'm the hero, yo.
Yeah, but this was so
Dog.
forced. There was no emotionality to it at all. It was kind of like the movie just abandons trying to be this like self-help, like really
Yeah.
I don't know, the mantras and all that stuff, and it just goes for entertainment. There's like a shootout with Thomas Jane with people with assault right. Like it's just the dumbest things I've ever seen.
You really don't get it. You go, okay, you can't stop killing people. You're an alcoholic priest.
There's the hitmen who want to open a restaurant.
The hitmen
Did the
want-
stories
and you go,
culminate
and
in
then you're
anything?
going,
Oh.
are they boyfriends? These two
Yeah,
hitmen?
there was that undertone that they never addressed.
Yeah.
So it's getting no press.
I'd love to
It's
play
a game.
hardly released.
I
right?
want to play a gay
If you-
hitman.
I'd sign you
My-
up for that in a heartbeat.
My
So
name would
it's
be
probably-
Muscles Marinara.
Why are you Italian? Why did you immediately go Italian?
I did. I really did. Why did I do that?
But anyway, I mean, Reach Me for me
Thumbs
is
down.
a total miss.
Yes,
It
sir.
might have been one of the worst movies I've seen this year,
Wow.
honestly.
Reach
Yeah.
Me.
Well, there's a reason why it's kind of being released under the table and not really talked about, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a mainstream film. You can't
No.
see people flocking to this going, wow, I really enjoyed that.
The cast is interesting, to
Okay,
say
it's
the
a-
least. Like a bunch of
interesting- it's-
C-grade, Kira Sedgwick,
Kira Sedgwick.
Stallone.
The guy from Entourage, wasn't he
yeah,
in
you
Entourage?
got
Kevin
one
Costner.
of the Entourage guys. Who
One of
cares?
the Entourage
It
guys.
doesn't even matter.
Terry Crews playing a Terry Crews character.
But
You
not
know.
even he can save the movie, and that's the worst part. I love Terry Crews and everything, and I didn't even like him.
Well, a movie that is getting a lot of attention and people may flock to see it. Horrible Bosses 2 coming out next week.
Next Wednesday, we get the pre-Thanksgiving release on that one.
Exactly. Okay. I saw this in a very full theater that was mixed with
I was there.
theater goers and the press.
How did the audience like it?
And did you go to one of the press ones?
I
that
went
was
to one
pretty
of the
dead?
press ones.
Okay. The audience was pretty much
They're responsive.
into it. And I thought, okay, maybe, you know what? It started off, I thought, very, very slow. I was like really, really missing the first one, and I was almost angry at the wasted potential. Then I thought, okay, Jennifer Aniston, crude, but also hilarious. But now I'm looking and seeing the reaction, and
Yeah.
it's like changing my opinion of the movie because it's really offended a lot of people.
I was going to say, this
Really?
is extremely
It's-
offensive.
oh, really?
It's like overtly...
Jennifer Aniston talking dirty, dressed as a dominatrix, trying to make new friends. Boom. That's it.
Talking about
Re-
14-year-olds in a sexual
That
way,
scene, exactly.
which I thought, okay, you know what? That's kind of brave of them to go for that. But then you really think about it, and you're like, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's a lot.
And you know
of
what it
what's
seemed like
being
to me
talked about.
with Aniston really trying to break away from the Friends image. I'll do that and
I
totally.
did think she
But
was funny, but
This was such a sequel, and it was so mainstream in
It
the way
was
that
so
minutes into
for
the
the
movie, my
money.
thought was, oh, we're going to get a Macklemore montage. All right, so that's the kind of movie
they
this is.
repeated not only a lot of the music cues, just a lot of the same
It's
jokes.
like a frat boy movie.
And it could have been.
In
We
a
saw
way.
with 22 Jump Street how the self-referential
It can
humor can work. And that's happened a lot. There have been a lot of great sequels. And this, I think the reason why it really disappoints is because you know that it could have, had they not rushed it,
I'm
could
gonna
have
say
been
that
better.
it doesn't even not work at points. I mean, you got
There's-
Charlie Day, Jason Sudeikis,
No,
and
there's
Jason
a lot
Bateman.
of great stuff, but
They
it
are
just
funny people,
misses
and
the
They
Yes.
work
mark.
well
like
doing
them.
comedy together.
Yes,
They do.
they all
But-
have their main
They all have their
points,
moments.
and that's it.
I thought the bloopers were like the funniest part.
Yes,
You
That was
know
my
what I
favorite part.
mean? I thought, but I did love where they have a plan going on, and you see the plan
Right.
executed in this very stylized Hollywood way, and then the reality of trying to execute that plan.
And the funny part is, Chris Pine basically plays a dumbed down version of the character he plays in Stretch, which is a movie that no one saw.
I didn't see
Wow,
that.
now I wanna
Really?
see
A
that.
dumbed down version.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Stretch, he's even more eccentric. He's a crazy billionaire, stuff like that. And in this movie, he's like the billionaire's son, and he wants
Yeah,
daddy
and
to
they-
love him.
Yeah,
daddy
we should
issues,
say
stuff
that
like
they've now quit their jobs. They've started their
They
own
chase the American
business.
dream.
There's a lot of weird gay jokes that are not
Right.
even funny at first. That was like,
It's-
really?
Let me tell you, Sudeikis and Charlie
Day.
were about a week early in this week. They were guests on Good Morning America. The movie started, and I'm laughing because they weren't like trying to be funny on the show, but the segment was just like the opening segment in the movie.
Oh, because of the way hosts
how they
are.
The hosts are.
I thought that
so
was
tell
great.
you, and
I thought that
and-
was great.
Oh, that was a smart.
That
line,
was
Tony.
spot on.
I mean, but Horrible Bosses 2 is the kind of movie that you go in, and I mean, you can walk out unscathed.
Well,
It's not
people
really
are
that
saying,
bad.
it was super misogynistic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of racist jokes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. And it's just being ripped apart.
Third movie from Jason Bateman had Bad Words this
Yeah.
year, and This Is Where I Leave You, and Horrible Bosses 2, the third one.
Yeah.
I mean-
I liked Bad Words.
All right, so I'm at Donato. You can find me at DonatoBomb on Twitter sphere and on We Got This Covered reviewing movies and whatnot.
I'm Justine Browning, at Jess Browning on Twitter. You can find me here on this YouTube channel, On the Scene.
I'm Bobby Rivers. You can find me on Twitter at Bobby Rivers TV and on YouTube, Bobby Rivers TV. Thanks for this invite. I love doing this.
Of course.
do it again
Thank
soon,
you
don't
so
worry.
much.